Hey, welcome back to the Film Tangent Show, everybody. We're changing the format up a little bit. The new format of Film Tangent is going to be us sitting here and watching comments roll in the live stream and asking for super chats. That's the new,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
a new
just,
way, dude.
yeah, and then just every couple minutes, just saying like, all right, guys, we need to get to our goal. We need to get to this amount of money by an hour in. We're only at this, and then like not say anything else, and we're just gonna keep saying that. That's the new pop. That's gonna be the new format of the show. Just so you guys are aware. What do you
Yeah,
get? What do you think of that?
I'm down with that. I think that's really what this show should have been
Film,
all along.
film and fit, fresh and
That's really
film.
what the show should have been all along. Look,
I think we should also paywall if anybody wants to actually like talk in the chat or do anything. I think that
they
should
have to
be
be.
paywalled like $50,
Yeah,
something
no,
light.
they have to be our Patreon. You can actually do that. Funnily enough, on YouTube and shit, you can make it so that only subscribe, like only people who are like, what did you call that? Like people who are like patroning you, like members or whatever. Only members can chat.
Dude, is there a worse podcast format than that new thing where, like, I think Fresh and Fit created it, where it's just like two or more dudes and then like 6 to
Like
12
women.
like OnlyFans girls sitting around a
Yeah,
table, and they're all just like,
yeah.
I feel like male female dynamics have changed because of social media, like
Pretty silly. You know what the funny
it's
thing is,
like,
man? I have never, um, I've never really sat through one of those.
no.
Like
No,
I
me
know
either.
what you're saying to me just because I've seen like clips,
Yeah.
like I've
Yep.
seen just like stuff on like my timeline, just be like, oh, this. But there's a world out there, man, that I'm not a part of. And when I say that, I
Oh
even
yeah.
talk about like I saw that the most popular podcast. Um, I had been under the impression that it was Rogan, and it's not even Rogan. It's like someone else. Did you know this?
No, I thought it was
Rogan's
Rogan.
number two. Rogan's number two. The most popular podcast is some other podcast. I think it's like some ladies like the host. Never
Not
heard
Call
of
Her
it.
Daddy.
Is
Is
it
it
that what it
Call Her
is? No.
Daddy? That's the
No,
no.
no, 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 that's
I
not
don't
it. That's
know.
not it. It's
I don't
something
know.
else. It's something else. It's not Rogan.
I was
It's not
like,
Rogan.
there's no way.
I think
What?
Rogan might be the number one, like across all platforms, but I think in like podcast centric platforms, it's not him. Like on Spotify, it's not him. But I forget the name of it.
This
But what I'm
su-
trying to say,
Oh,
what
go
I'm trying
ahead.
to get at is that there's a world out there, dude,
Yeah.
that we're not privy of. I didn't
Call
even
Her
know that.
Daddy is number 5 according to this site.
Hmm.
That
That's still
God.
surprisingly high.
Yeah. Ugh.
Number one podcast in the
Oh, the
world.
Ben Shapiro show is number 8. That's really concerning. God damn, dude. It's not film tangents, it's film tangentials because you're going on tangentials. Next question.
Oh man, but that's what I'm trying to say. It's like the world has become we're all stuck in these algorithms, right?
Yeah.
And then to the extent that it's like when I learn new information, that it's like, oh, this is the number one podcast, or Ben Shapiro's is an existing living human being still to this day. I'm always befuddled because I'm just like, who enjoys this?
Yeah.
Um, Shouts out to the almost 400 folks who enjoy this show.
Yeah.
But who enjoys listening to Ben Shapiro's voice, like in a long format? Like if I was like working and on my headphones, it was just Ben Shapiro's voice, talking about how much he hates like the Batman movie or what have you, I would just like crush my my earphones.
Blow my head off, dude.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's like
Well,
the
that's
like
an ad hominem attack. An ad hominem fallacy is attacking my character. If you'd actually like to attack one of my arguments through logic and reason, then
what's
we
the
can have an
expectation?
actual conversation.
Like what's the expectation? I'm even like even when it comes to movie reviewing, right? Even when it comes to like people who are out there doing like shows about movies, thanks for listening to this show about movies.
Yeah.
But even when people are making doing stuff about movies, like with what's his name, the drinker, the critical drinker. I'm kind of fed up with that content, dude. I'm kind of fed up with that guy.
Yeah.
Um, is then it's like it's like when it feels like a lot of creators and a lot of what YouTube has become, or a lot of what the internet has just been like staunchly being for a certain point of view and not diverging from it, you know. And at
Mm.
that point, it's like, well, your opinion's not interesting, you know. How is your opinion interesting? If all that you do is like cape for whatever it is that you're into, you know, like, oh, this is the end of be all of what have you, you know. It's like, oh, I'm in the right wing of this spectrum, so whatever my opinions will always be whatever is caping for this point of view, you know. And even when you think about it on the left side of things, right? It's like it's so boring, you know. Like, oh, what's the critical drinker's opinion on Snow White? You know, you don't even have to go watch the video. You know, he's fucking shitting on that movie.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that's what I'm trying to say
I
though,
will
because
say
it's
that
like
movie does look aggressively bad.
it does look aggressively
When I
bad.
saw the
You know, it does look
commercial,
aggressively bad.
dude, like I was like, I can't even fucking believe this is real. Like it looks AI generated. Like it looks horrific. Like Gal Gadot in that crown or whatever as the evil
Yeah,
queen. I was like, this
that's
looks like
terrible
some.
casting.
It looks like fan art or something.
Yeah. I wonder who they owe money to. You have to owe money to somebody to cast Gal Gadot into that position.
You don't think she
Like,
was a good choice for the evil queen?
yeah, it's like, why would they do that? Like, why would they do that? It makes no sense when you think about it. It's like, why would you? You know, when you think about that role, you know, historically, and the actors that have taken upon that role, it's like that role demands like somebody that can actually that actually has like a range when it
Yeah,
comes to performance. Because the number one thing I've seen about this movie is people shitting on Gal Gadot's performance, and it's like, well,
of course.
who's the casting director?
Of
Shit
course,
on the
she's
casting director.
awful, dude. She's horrible.
Yeah,
I mean, I've only seen her as Wonder Woman, but she's awful as Wonder Woman.
yeah.
She's horrible. It's like a cardboard piece of toast like performance. It's just terrible. Yeah, it's
Yep.
like you know what it is. Like casting her as the evil queen is kind of like the same way that like people online will like do AI generated fan art of like Triple H as Kratos or whatever. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's like, okay, I mean, I could
Oh,
see
yeah.
it's like I could see the look, but it's like, not real. I don't think that would really go that great. I mean,
Yeah, dude, you know what I saw? I didn't send this to you just because I thought like, oh, maybe you won't find this funny. Maybe you would have, but it was Triple H theme song, and instead of like the laugh of like the dude from Motorhead, it's Peter Griffin's laugh.
why wouldn't you send that to me?
I know,
That's
I
hilarious.
listened to it, I listened to it and I laughed and I was like, "Oh, maybe Jake will be like, this is dumb." So I just didn't send it to you.
What part of that is not up my alley, dude? I don't understand this.
Because you know that in that song, like a few times the dude goes like, "Hoo, hoo, 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 hoo," and instead of that, I just swapped it and it was like, "Hey,"
Yeah, dude. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
and
it's
the
because
song
like
is like supposedly
banana,
the same. Yeah,
banana.
yeah, yep,
I remember one time I had
yeah.
this like mental this mental audio of like Yellow Ledbetter by Pearl Jam, but you replace the lyrics with with Big Show's theme song. It'd just be like,
Whoa.
well, what's up, Big Show? Well, it's a big bad show tonight.
The Big Show's intro has to be one of the funniest ones.
Oh yeah, dude. Dude, I had this friend. Oh man, I'd be so happy if he was listening to this right now. But I had this work friend a few years ago when I worked in sales. And he was like also a wrestling fan. He and I actually went to an AEW show together at one point. And I remember one time like him and I we went I think we went to see Bert Kreischer like downtown, and then me, him, and his friend like just went out drinking afterward. And then, dude, like at midnight, we were just walking through the streets of downtown, just going like, "Well, well, it's the big show." And dude, every time that guy and I would like walk past each other in the office, we would just be like, "Well."
I remember. I don't remember. I don't like. Didn't you and I had some kind of a gag in college about that theme song? Or I think I remember that you said at one point that there was like a Death Grip song that I Walk the Line, right?
Oh, I Walk Alone by the
Yeah, Walk Alone.
Batista
Yeah,
theme
yeah, that's
song.
right. That's right.
I,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
saying like how fucking insane. I think it was when we went to see when we went to see Death Grips in concert.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
was
That's
like,
right.
what if they fucking played "I Walk Alone" by
I Walk
Batista?
Alone. Yeah. But didn't they have a song? Wasn't it because there was like a Death Grip song that you were like, oh, this sounds like it could be? Was it like No Love or
Oh
something?
yeah, because they both have a similar like guitar riff at the
Yeah,
beginning where it's like,
yeah,
bow 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 bow.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they
I
have that
walk
song.
alone. That was the best WWE theme song right there, probably.
I
Batista's
think
theme.
Batista's, yeah, it was pretty
yeah,
good,
I
honestly.
really
Yeah.
enjoyed, like, in terms of, like, the ones that I really enjoyed, like, when I would watch it, um, I love Triple H's theme song, for sure, and there were a lot of I loved Shawn Michaels' theme song, you know that Shawn Michaels is my favorite
Oh
wrestler,
yeah,
Yeah,
Shawn
yeah.
Michaels was great.
I loved
It
Shawn
was like
Michaels' theme song.
I honestly really liked Shawn Michaels, but like got into like actually watching wrestling like
Yeah.
when he was gone.
Yeah, he was a goat, dude, he was a
Right.
goat, but there were people who had, like there's certain people who have theme songs that just work really well to just interrupt the whole mood of everything, you know?
Yeah.
Like The Rock's one, because it just starts with that, like, "If you smile," everybody goes
Mm-hmm.
bananas, you know, I love those kind of theme songs.
Or the
But,
Undertaker's
you know
Gong.
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
it's
that's
Brock
exhausting,
Brock
exactly what came to
Lesnar.
my
crashing
mind
Brock
too.
spikes.
Lesnar's too. He had that fucking like wow 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 that would
Mhm,
like come on.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, well, I think
Those were
it
the best too when they would like tease them coming out like at a moment where
yeah.
they weren't supposed to be there too.
Yeah, no, to this
Yeah.
day, it's iconic when and I think I showed you this, Jake, and I'm pretty sure you might also know this. And for those listening, you can look this up. It's like 2009, I think, and I think Orton was the WWE champion, and he's on the stage, and he's just kind of just running his mouth, just cutting a promo, heel promo, and I don't remember exactly if there were other wrestlers there or not, like, people kinda lined up. I think there might have been people lined up on the ramp, and he's just basically being like, "I'm undisputed, I have no challengers, nothing this and that and the other thing."
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, just the Shawn Michaels theme song cuts in, and he's
Oh
like,
hell
"What?"
yeah.
And Shawn runs up and, beats him up. But those were the great things about WWE, man, time and place, WWE.
Hmm.
Like, I couldn't watch the WWE now and get the same amount of excitement. Like, I can still watch WWE, um, but I just just those feelings that you got as a kid watching that, those I mean, people have to cherish those, man. People have to cherish those. I remember those memories very fondly.
Yeah. No, same here, man. Yeah, I always used to I remember like when I was younger, I still think about this sometimes. Like I'm like, what's the in-universe explanation? When I say in-universe, I mean in the actual fictional storyline of wrestling, right? Where wrestling is real fighting and Randy Orton is a real guy who actually kicks people in the head, you know.
Yeah.
For wrestling fans that would be kayfabe. Um
Yeah.
What's the in-universe explanation for a theme song playing, like when a guy's just coming out to interrupt somebody? Like, is there a guy in the back, and then the wrestler just goes like, "Hey, play my song right now.
No, it's
I'm
fun.
about to interrupt Randy Orton." You know, the guy just like
Yeah.
pushes the button. Like I always thought, even like when I was younger, I was like, "Well, how does that?" I was like, like when someone like Randy Orton's out there talking his shit, and
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels, Michael Jackson's theme song. I almost said Michael Jackson. When Michael Jackson interrupts Randy Orton,
Can you imagine it that far? Oh, yeah, hilarious.
Comes out to Thriller.
Yeah.
when Shawn Michaels, is
No,
like
dude, he would
coming
have to
out to,
come back to he would have to come out to bad. You know
Yeah,
what?
that yeah.
yeah, oh for sure,
Constant
man.
delivery.
Yeah, when Shawn Michaels comes out to interrupt Randy Orton mid sentence, is there like a technician backstage, and Shawn Michaels is like holding his hand up, and he's like, "Okay, wait," and then Randy Orton's in the middle of a sentence, and he's like, "Okay, now." You know,
They microchip him. That's the only thing I can think of. They microchip him, and as they're walking out, it just plays.
yeah, yeah.
But thinking about it retroactively, though, I think the WWE is like the gateway to getting into anime. When I think about it,
Mm,
it's anime, dude. They have finishing moves, like
Yeah.
Crocodile Kamehameha. They have songs. It's such an anime thing, dude. It's like so Japanese. It's like it's not even American. It's like such a Japanese thing.
so true. Well, I mean, like, yeah. I mean, we were talking about Cobra Kai a couple weeks ago. I mean, Cobra Kai is like basically like anime and pro wrestling combined, with like,
Yeah.
80s movie. It's like 1/3 80s movie, 1/3 pro wrestling, 1/3 like anime. Yeah. For me, pro wrestling was the gateway to like MMA, UFC
Yeah.
stuff. Cause I don't know, like this really is, I really realized like, oh shit, I'm kind of, I don't know. I don't know how else to say this, but it's like, I'm really an adult now when I
Yeah.
realized that I would rather watch a UFC fight than like a WWE match.
WWE.
Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying like, the shittiest, like the best WWE matches are still more entertaining than like the shittiest real UFC fights, like a bad UFC fight where the guys are just kind of dancing around each other. But like the best UFC fights versus like the best WWE matches, and I know they're like I get it. They're a completely different medium. One's a sport, one's entertainment, but they're both fights, and I don't know. It was just like kind of that realism of, because WWE, you can't ignore the fact that WWE is simulating what UFC is. It's
Right.
simulating sport fighting. It's so when people say like, "Oh, WWE is more similar than to like Game of Thrones than it is to UFC." Yes and no. Yes, in the
Mm.
sense that they're telling a story and that it's just meant to be consumed as a story, but no, in the sense that they are simulating combat sports. So
Right.
you're essentially
Right.
watching combat sports. One is just fictional,
Yeah.
and it is like hard to watch, like to go from like watching a John Jones fight and then watch like your average kind of WWE match. I'm not talking about the greatest matches where it's like, Undertaker throwing someone off the top of Hell in a Cell. I'm talking about your average WWE match. It's hard to go from like watching a great UFC fight to watching like some guy hit the Irish whip on somebody, and be like, "You
Precisely.
go over there against the ropes," and then like
Yeah.
and the guy like hits the ropes, and then he runs back, and his opponent like, that thing they do where he like falls to his belly, and the person just jumps over them, after they hit
Yeah,
the Irish
yeah.
whip.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah. The little leapfrog shit.
yeah, it
Yeah.
really is
Keep
just
running.
hard. Not even the leapfrog shit. It's like the dude does like a sprawl. So he Irish
Yeah.
whips
Oh, yeah,
somebody.
yeah.
The guy he Irish whipped is coming back, and
Mhm.
And he sprawls under
then he
him.
sprawls, and the guy he
Yeah.
Irish
Yep.
To make him
whipped
basically
just
keep
keeps
running.
running and just runs
Yeah.
over him. When I see shit like that, I'm just like, I can't, like, I'm just like, I can't. And I remember, like, when I realized that, I was like, oh fuck, like I'm really not a kid anymore. I was like, I
Yeah.
really am like not a kid. Because when I was a kid, I would fight for WWE. And I still do. I respect the art form. I respect like people who like pro wrestling, who watch it, and get into the storyline. And I can still, if like I could still get into a pro wrestling storyline. Like if there was a match that I really cared about, I would buy the pay-per-view
Yeah.
and watch it, But yeah.
It's
No, no.
interesting though when I think about it, because what you made me think about is the fact that other kids would say to younger kids like it's not real,
Mm,
and I'm just kind of thinking back at that, and it's like, what's the point of that, other than just like to poop other people's fun?
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, what's the point of telling kids like, hey, kid, like if you're like, I never did that to anybody. When I got to the position of being the older kid that
Mm,
knew, like WWE is fake. I never said to a younger kid like, "Oh, this is fake," 'cause it's so stupid. And I know you kind of have to have maturity, and kids have anything but fucking maturity. But you have to have some level of maturity to be like, "Oh, this is fun," and I shouldn't try to rob this from this kid. And that was a cool thing with me. That was a cool thing for me with my parents when I was growing up, my mom and everybody around us, that they just let us have it. Like nobody when I was a kid, not my mom, not
Mhm.
anybody, came up to us and they was like, "Yeah, this is some fake shit. Like you guys shouldn't enjoy this." You just let us enjoy it, because that's the cool thing about being a kid. Is just like everything's so magical,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you can just your brain is just so eager to just believe whatever. So it's kind of tragic that I guess part of the youth experience for a lot of kids is other kids poo-pooing that to them and being like, "This is fake,"
Mhm.
and then a lot of them growing up and then witnessing other kids be like enjoying WWE and saying to them like, "This is fake," it's like, grow up. It's like, so what's the point,
Yeah.
that's silly, this nature of the human that we have.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it's like WWE and like pro wrestling in general it gets that criticism leveled at it in a way that other fiction doesn't. Because
Right, of
nobody's gonna say, "Well, Game of Thrones is fake." It's like, yeah, no shit.
course.
But
Yeah.
the reason for that is because pro wrestling is simulating reality,
Real fighting,
and
yeah.
that's why. So it already looks like. I think that's the mindset. I think people need to like sort of get past that with pro wrestling. I mean,
Mhm.
or they should anyway. Like, I think people need to get. I think people should get past that because it's like I get it. Like it's simulating reality, but it's at this point, especially in this day and age, it's like, with pro wrestling being like as mainstream as it is, probably more than ever
Mhm.
now with like guys like Travis Scott appearing, and just
Right.
pro wrestling has never been this mainstream. Probably. I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't alive in the 80s or whatever, but um, it's like I feel like people should get past that, because it's like, look, this is just another media product, like anything else,
Yeah, and I think
and
you can still respect it, like, from, like, an athletic point of view, like,
oh, for sure,
like, those like, there is a huge level of athleticism to that, to the point that guys were roiding, you know?
yeah, yeah, they
So it's like,
have to because they're doing like
so
five,
you have
six
to
of those matches a week, like,
exactly, so it's like you still have to respect, like, just the sheer athleticism that those guys have and the commitment,
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
some bum off the street, you can't put some bum there and be like, "You go and do those, like, high, like, flying maneuvers these guys are doing." Like, no, you're not gonna be able to do that.
oh, for sure, dude. I would rather. I mean, I would rather live the life of an MMA fighter than a pro wrestler. Because with MMA, like, yeah, you got to train your ass off and stuff. But with pro wrestling, those guys got to travel. They're on the road like
Mm.
200 days a year, and they got to
which is
do.
insane.
Yeah, oh yeah,
200 days a year is brutal.
yeah, and
Who
then
makes more money, though?
probably pro wrestlers, but because UFC
'Cause I
fighters
know
don't
I
make
know that
shit.
because I was, like, listening to, like, some guys talking about how Dana just screwed everybody on the UFC,
Yeah,
and they make, like, no money. They make, like, no money.
dude, I looked up John Jones, and let. By the way, let's do this. Let's actually just do the usual format and save the movie to the end because I feel like we're on a pretty good
Okay,
roll here. I'll keep an eye on
yeah.
the clock, but yeah, dude, I looked up John Jones's net worth. I thought it was gonna be like 200 million or something crazy.
No.
It's 5 million, or
Yeah, they
not
make no money.
even.
Jeez.
I
They
was
make
like,
no money.
What?
I was
Yeah,
like,
dude, you didn't know
what?
that? I looked this up, I was reading I was actually, I became privy to this information by just looking up some, like, tennis stuff,
Yeah.
and then I learned that basically, if the UFC, and I know, I'm kind of saying this in kind of layman's terms. This is factual what I'm saying, but it's not. I don't have all the numbers, so I'm just gonna be broad. If somebody in the comments, if you're very knowledgeable about this, you can illuminate anybody else and just add a little bit of extra context to what I'm saying. But in the UFC, let's say the UFC makes 200 million, right?
Mm.
Through sponsorships and through commercial ad breaks and what have you, right? Normally, let's say if we're talking about the NBA, I'm pretty sure that the NBA and like the National like Baseball League and everything, I'm pretty sure that those sports that have like these unions of work or of athletes, they are called 50-50, meaning that it's very lucrative to be a basketball player, because not only are you making your salary, but then anything in the league that's making like money from sponsorships deals and Pepsi or whatever, they have to give, they have to split the profit with the players and then split those profits amongst the players. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
So
so then with the UFC,
50% goes back to the team of what they're making, and
yes,
then that is then split between each player, which is still
that's right.
a fuck ton. But yeah, you're
Oh
making
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
sense.
half.
definitely.
You know.
Yeah.
And so then when the guys at the UFC at some point they all realized like, hey guys, we're not
Mm,
making any money,
mm.
and they sued the UFC and they sued Dana White. And ultimately, what happened with that lawsuit was nothing. Dana White and the UFC settled, and
Wow.
so they ended up paying out, I think, like $200 million to all of the UFC guys. And so when that split was done, all of the fighters ended up making somewhere around 700,000 each of them. They were basically saying like, "Hey, you guys have been making a bunch of profit from ad revenue and like gambling and like,
Yep.
having all of these, you know, having all of this revenue coming in and all these partnerships with, MGM and again, gambling and sponsorships and YouTubers, whatever." Um, they were like, "You guys owe us money." And
Mm.
so ultimately they did end up winning, but what that ended up doing was that then in their clause states that all of the UFC fighters are only owed from all of the revenue that UFC may make by selling their image and by sponsoring like gambling and anything or whatever. The fighters are only making 15%. So take that
Wow.
and compare that to the 50% that the guys on the fucking NBA are making. So they're only making 15%,
15%
and
divvied
not
up
only
to all of the
yeah,
fighters.
amongst all of those guys.
And there's
Yes,
like, I don't know how many fighters in the UFC, a lot.
A
exactly.
good
And so
bit.
then take into account on top of that, right, that when you sign up to be a fighter at the UFC for Dana White, they make you sign a contract now. They make you sign a contract now, a legal contract that says you're not going to sue us because we're only going to pay you at most whatever you get trickled down from this 15%.
Hmm.
That insane?
Wow.
And we're talking about like the contactiest of contact sports.
Yeah.
You know, these guys don't have fucking long careers. They're getting beat up for a living.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Incredible, right? Like this is kind of how it is. Um, yeah,
That's
yeah.
insane. Well, Dana White's
It's
that
interesting,
guy's that guy's clown shoes, dude. I mean, that guy,
dude. It's interesting
guy's a
when I
fucking
think about it,
meathead.
right? Because then I think about the fact. I think I listened to some Rogan episode a long while ago, in which Rogan was basically talking about how Dana has like a gambling addiction,
Oh.
and how he's like always gambling, and he was like talking about how he like went to Dana's house, and while being at his house, Dana was like betting on like some basketball game or something, and that he lost like $1 million just watching like
Jeez.
just throughout that basketball game.
And Dana White's like
Um,
a billionaire. It's like, I
yes,
mean,
but this is what
damn,
I'm
dude.
building up to. This is what I'm
I
building up
guess you need
to.
the rush.
What I'm building up to is this. I don't understand how.
Excuse me, half a billionaire. Go ahead.
I don't understand how all of these guys, all of these fighters, go on Rogan's show and are able to just kind of sit there with him or do like the fight companion and everything. When it's like, dude, you are like best friends with Dana White, who is just exploiting us and
Mm,
then gambling away the money because he has so much money from just not paying, not
mm,
paying us the money that
yeah.
we're owed. It's
Is Joe
ridiculous to
Rogan
me.
though? I don't think he's even friends with Dana White though, is he? I mean, he's
Is
heavily embedded in that organization, but I don't think he buddy
No,
buddies with Dana
he's like
White.
friends. I'm pretty sure he said that he's like close friends with him.
Oh,
So
okay.
much so that
Mm.
And by
so
the
much so that
way,
he's
for those listening, I'm not defending Joe Rogan in any way. That guy's a fucking goofball, but I'm just sticking to fact. I'm like getting the
no, no,
facts
no.
straight.
No, I'm pretty sure that I'm accurate in this. That he said that he's like very close friends with him. so much so that he's the reason why, he had like Musk and Trump and all those like guys,
Um,
coming to the show. That Dana basically convinced them.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
very
well,
fascinating stuff.
he's in that like circle of idiots for sure. Like
Yeah.
that just circle that I'm just so tired of, man. With the like, I was thinking of it before when we were talking about the podcast. It's like there's like a bingo card for modern podcasting. I feel like where it's like one square is like um men being lost today, and another square is like another square is like free speech, and like another square
Mm.
is like
Political
uh
activism.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, another, yeah, it's just like it's like the same topics ad nauseum. Like I had a video pop up in my YouTube feed recently, I think it was today, where it was just like, it was like so and so on Joe Rogan on young men being lost today. It's like, oh my god, been talking about this for years ad nauseum.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's a problem, but like, does anyone have any real new insight to it?
It's not even, I
It's
feel
just
like it's not
like,
even a problem anymore. I feel like it's just a grift, man. Like, to me, it just feels like it's a grift. I feel like at some point,
well, people are like
you know,
preying on men for sure.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Like,
Mhm.
it's a
for sure it
problem, but I
exists.
think the
Yeah,
grift is making it worse.
exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, for sure it exists. But the issue is that people just realize, like, oh, you can just profit off of this. And so now it's just a grift. And nobody's actually trying to help anybody. You know,
Yeah,
you could say that at some point, at the very beginning of this stuff, that guys like Peterson and whoever, were actually trying to actually help people.
yeah.
But now it's just a grift. Now it's just a grift. Now it's just like, let's make it so that we have a captive audience,
Hmm.
and let's not actually teach them how to not be captive. We're just gonna keep them captive.
Yeah.
And, because if they actually were trying to help these people improve, then you would not be trying to grow an audience off of these people. You would just be trying to actually help them,
Oh,
you
for
know?
sure. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think guys, I don't know, like Peterson, I feel like is just a goofball. It seems like my reading on Jordan Peterson is like he does seem. I have no idea. Who knows? He could just be a grifter like everyone else, but he does seem to be
Yeah.
someone who like actually has good intentions with trying to help young people and young men and stuff. But I get versus like a Tate who like is just preying on people, brags about preying on people, and then his audience is like, he's not preying on people. It's like, dude, he's fucking
That's literally
bragging
what he's
about.
doing.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that to me is the craziest thing. Is there's like hour-long videos of Tate, compilations of Tate like bragging about his crimes and stuff, and then his audience is like, no, he didn't do that. And it's like, wait, so you're kissing this guy's ass, but you won't take his word for it? That's
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
weird.
which is fascinating, but it's so strange how these kind of, parasocial relationships go, right? Because then people go to bat for people who are not even their friends,
Yeah,
like, you don't know these people,
I know.
Um, it's so strange. It's so strange that it's just like, and again, I think a lot of it is kind of like an element of maybe youth.
Yeah.
Just people being like, teens, late teens, or maybe people in their early 20s and not realizing these kind of things. But
Mm.
it's so
Yeah, for
disheartening,
sure.
it's disheartening because a lot of the times engaging with these things is like, and I've said this before, it's like fighting the ocean, you're just not winning, and
Mm.
it just keeps coming, and it's like, and you're just kind of like, well, I guess just time has to pass, and a lot of these guys have to kind of out of this and realize it's really just like a youth and being naive thing. And I think a lot of people, with age, they realize it. It's just like such a common thing, with young guys. Just kind of falling prey to some like ridiculous way of thinking.
Having like
Well, I mean,
idols.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and just like really just being sold an image of like, oh, this is a problem. And like, yeah, I think that's a problem too. And then just like,
Mm.
here's my solution to it. Like, and look what I got, a Bugatti or whatever the hell. And I,
mhm,
this alpha male guy who's living this fictitious life. Uh, which is it's just very very weird. But they definitely get. I mean, even like the people selling like uh different types of like classes and stuff for how to be like an entrepreneur, how to do social media marketing, how to do drop shipping, whatever, like trying to get rich quick type schemes. Also, like younger people definitely susceptible to some of that stuff as
Yeah,
well.
it's interesting because again, I think if anybody was gonna help anybody, they would be like, "Hey, try to." I feel like people would say to young people, young men, like, "Hey, man, do some kind of aptitude like test. Think about the things that actually interest you. Just like you could become anything. You could become a firefighter. You could do whatever the hell you wanted. It's
Hmm.
just so strange that a lot of the obviously it's not strange. I just say that in kind of like it's kind of saddens me, that a lot of like the only significant avenues people seem to think there are in life right now is just to kind of be an influencer or to
Yeah.
just steal money from other people.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
oh, my
yeah.
way in life is really just. It's like everybody's just trying to. The way everybody thinks about it is like, oh, my way in life is just to be the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm gonna be
Right.
Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm gonna be selling garbage to people, and they're gonna be paying me millions of dollars. Like
Well,
it's strange.
the funny thing is about it is like I thought of it when Jack was talking. It's like none of Andrew Tate's followers get the Bugatti. None of Ty Lopez's followers get the good life. None of fucking I don't know, dating coach whoever million dating coaches followers get the girls. The problems are only getting worse. Like people are only getting more unhealthy. Like this is something I've noticed like for a long like I actually thought of this a while back and I've wanted to bring this up on the podcast, but it's so funny that like I wonder if because I think the so you have like this steady decline in a lot of areas in I can really only speak for like America, I guess. Um but you have like a steady decline in health, right? Like obesity's going up, health is getting worse, right?
Yeah.
As far as like money goes, people are there's like people are having difficulty buying homes and all of that. And the middle class is disappearing, like we've all heard that before.
Cost of
And then
goods.
yeah, and then as far as like interpersonal relationships go, like loneliness is going up. um young men aren't having sex, like that's a big thing right now. It's like like so many young men like report like not having had sex in like the last like year or two, which is like crazy. And then like but at the same time, the rate of fitness influencers, money, like get rich gurus, dating coaches, all of that stuff over time has become more abundant, right? And I think it's kind of there's two ways to look at it. It's like one way to look at it is maybe those things are becoming abundant because those problems are getting worse. But the other way to look at it is maybe those problems are actually becoming worse because that shit is becoming more abundant. Because there's so
Right.
much like get rich quick shit, fitness influencer shit out there that people just they spend like all their time kind of consuming that information and getting lost in like all of these because those guys like Ty Lopez doesn't care if any of his students actually make money. And I don't want to talk down to our audience. Like, this. Like, this is obvious, Um,
Yeah.
but I kind of wonder if at some point that stuff actually started getting worse because of this big grift. It's kind
Well,
I
I
don't know,
think
it's something to chew on. But like
I,
the ironic, if I could just land the plane here, like
yeah.
that's the irony of it is like no one none of all the people commenting on like Fresh and Fit's channel, giving them money, giving them super chats, none of them are getting money. None of them
No.
are graduating. Like these self-help guys, like there's like very few people, I would say, probably in those spaces. I mean, just statistically, like, if you look at like a Ty Lopez video that has 5 million views, statistically, the grand vast majority of those people are not, they don't graduate. There's never a point where they say like they got their cap and gown and they're like, okay, I'm done watching Ty Lopez's videos and I'm now going to go like, I'm rich now, so I don't have to watch these anymore.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's just endless content that keeps people zombified. And to land the plane here, and hold that thought, Jack, because I do want to hear what you were going to say. But to land the plane, like I was talking with my girlfriend a couple weeks ago, and I really think, I've said this before, but I really think people have to get the hell off the internet. Like,
Oh, 100%.
get off the fucking internet. Because I thought of like, there's that whole like, you can't really say the word on YouTube, but like inkwell is, you know, we all know what it is. You know, that whole movement where, you know, people who want to be having sex are not, and they're really mad and they're in these circles. And then there's like the whole black pill movement too, which is like a subset of that, where it's like guys obsessing over their looks and they're like rating each other's faces online. They're like, oh, your chin is like a little bit asymmetrical to your nose and stuff. And I'm thinking like, I look back at like older generations and I'm like, do you think your grandfather was doing this stuff? Like your grandfather was not, and like all the fitness stuff too, like people are getting, they look at like all of this shit online and they're like, oh, this guy's got like 6-pack abs. It's like that guy's on steroids and he's selling you a product. Like your the guys in your grandfather's generation who were like fighting in World War II, those guys didn't have 6-packs, most of them. They were fit, but they didn't have 6-packs. They didn't have veins popping out. They were just like decently built dudes, most of them, or like average sized dudes, but they were men, you know? And it's like, it's like, but again, the same thing with that black pill shit. It's like those older generations were better off without these like internet commiserating spaces where people could just commiserate all day about like, you know, oh, like my nose is too small, or oh, they have all these like weird words too, these fucking weird face ratings. This is a weird fucking community online, but they're like, oh, your like cranial lift is like, you know, a little bit off, you know, so it's over for you, bro. You're not gonna, you know, and it's like, man,
you're chopped.
Close the laptop, like just stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, we're gonna say something.
I was just gonna. I mean, I have a personal gripe, especially with like the fitness influencer subset of like that. It's just being like,
yeah,
and just like social media in general, man. It's like all these like influencers, whether they're in fitness or, you know, selling. I mean, whenever I actually consume like social media, it's like always behind the idea of some sponsorship or like wanting to sell you something. But also just like the really tough part, and especially like, I mean, don't fall privy to it often, but I mean, it does freaking happen sometimes, man, where it's like you see all these, you know, gym influencers and you're working out hard and you're just like, it's hard not to compare yourself and to just be like, oh, well, this guy, you know, this guy claims to be natural and he's like one of those guys who kind of looks in between, like maybe with like top tier genetics and 10 years, maybe it's possible. But then you're like, it's probably not though. Like, cause you see some people like document their like kind of journey of like cycling on steroids and how quickly like they can get that physique that like is just like would take 10 years to get. I mean, it's just nobody at 2022 is just like looking like that without being on some sort of enhancements. And I think that really just for younger generations, like, I mean, if you start going to the gym with the idea that that's what you're going to look like if you do some sort of workout plan, like, of course it's going to not be rewarding if you're not seeing those types of you know, just like growth. Either you're going to turn to like performance enhancing drugs and steroids, or you're just not going to quit, which I mean, in that point of your argument could contribute to the, you know, people being more unhealthy, because it's like you kind of give up when you think it's like, oh, there's these guys, you know, he's like 6'4", you know, 250 pure muscle, like I'm never going to be like that, why would you even try? So I think the fitness one, especially just with my interest in like bodybuilding, is just like really kind of gets on my nerves. There's very few people, and then there's just like so much just like it's the weirdness of like what you're talking about, like with the your cranial lift or whatever is slightly off. It's just like this constant loop of like people just being like, this isn't optimal. Study came out yesterday. Now this movement in the gym is vaulted. It's not optimal. Then we're going to this. Here's all these videos that are just like just
Yeah.
constantly saying like, no matter what you're doing, it's not like optimal. It's
Yeah,
not
everything's
like
become
working the
like
best.
machine learning now, where it's like, what's the optimal thing? And it's like, oh my God, just go to the fucking gym and pick up a dumbbell and just start doing things. Like, after a
Right.
while,
Well, you
like,
know,
I get that there's like a better way to do things and a worse way to do things, but also sometimes you do need to just like put down the fucking like chat GPT and the fucking like, you know, influencer videos and shit. Stop researching and just go to the fucking gym and like lift some shit. You'll feel better, you know? Like,
right,
yes, do it the right way, but also there's like a million ways to do it. Just pick a horse and ride it, you know?
right. Well, the funny thing to me is that it just seems like we're not. I've been thinking about this, right? Because I've understood that the economy of the internet is entirely just rage baiting. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
It's just rage baiting. That's the entirety of the economy online. Not only that, it's like that and then just making people feel insecure. That's the entirety of it.
Yeah.
It's like it's either making people mad or making people feel like they're missing out on something. You know, that's the entirety of it. I remember when there was a conversation of removing likes from Instagram. They're like, maybe we should remove likes, and then just make it so that now that's a feature that you can put there if you wanted to.
Mm.
There's people that would just take the visibility out of it.
Oh.
Um, you know, but obviously that's just like most people and most popular creators are not doing that. It's still an element of that. And it's because that's just what it is. Since the inception of the internet, the thing that people have been taking gripe on has just constantly been just like FOMO, right? Seeing other
Yeah.
people doing things. It's like, oh, you go on Instagram and that person's over there in Hawaii, and this person's over here, and everybody seems like they're so happy, and everybody seems like they're having so much fun, right? So it's like that was always like kind of like this element of online, right? And now it's like on top of that, now it's rage, just making people feel angry.
Mm.
And that's just a fascinating thing to me because then that's really just become the grift. It's just been making people feel insecure, making people feel like they're missing out, and then making people angry.
Hmm.
And people get stuck in those cycles, man.
Yeah.
And just this like weird ass cycles. Um,
I'm always
yeah,
amazed at like how quick some like YouTube commenters and Redditors too will like reply. It's like, oh, you're just on this like all
mm.
day. There's like people that are just on it all day. That's all they
but
do
there's also
for
but there's also
hours.
bots. And this is what I've realized about online now.
Mm.
That a lot of the time, you don't know who you're talking to, and you don't
Yeah.
know if who you're talking to is even a human being. That's what I'm trying to get at, because it's like I realized lately um, that you will watch content online, right? And then the content will purposefully misinform you.
Mm.
Have you run into this?
I don't know. The closest thing I can think of is like those weird ads where it's like some public figure talking, but then you quickly realize that it's just like an AI recreation of their voice and the words don't match their lips. But
I've
Well,
seen that.
yeah.
what I'm trying to say is that let's say the equivalent of this, and this is like, and I'm saying this to you, maybe you'll see it.
Mm.
Um, I don't know, but maybe you can be, maybe that was what he was talking about. I've seen a lot of this online of people making videos or people sharing quotes or paragraphs or whatever, and then it will be, true information. It will be like, oh, a zebra has stripes or whatever. And then at some point in there will be something in that video or in that clip or in whatever it is that will just be outright made up, like
Mm.
garbage.
Mm.
It'll be
Yeah. The
something along the lines
backdoor
of like, "Oh,
technique.
rats can fly."
Yeah.
But I've realized that the purpose of that, and before I was questioning, because I was seeing this a lot, and I see this a lot this day, and I was like, what's the purpose of that? And then I realized that, oh, the purpose is just to get people to comment,
Mm.
because then any of those videos or any of those posts, whatever, would just have people in the comments clarifying that, you know,
Right,
and
right.
then people engaging with them, and then people disagreeing, and then and again, I
Oh,
realized like, oh, but you get what I'm saying, right?
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
so cheap, dude. It's just such a
Exactly,
cheap shot. Oh,
exactly. And
it's
then I
like
also realized that a
anything. We'll
lot of
just do
the
anything for engagement now. Oh,
exactly, and I realized that it was engagement farming. I was like, oh, this is just engagement. It's just trying to get people to
ooh.
comment. And then I also realized that it's just like all of these places, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, whatever, are packed with these bots,
Ah.
replying to you or creating messages just to get people to reply, just to get people angry and to reply. It's pretty ridiculous. But I've also kind of to end my train of thought here. Something else that I've kind of seen or something I've been thinking about is the fact that there is nothing actively countering these things
Mm.
in the sense that it doesn't feel like, and maybe this is representative of like who's making content and then who's making the media that we're engaging in, right? Because nothing that I engage with in terms of like movies, maybe I watch more TV shows, maybe there will be something there. But everything that I engage with for the most part, or everything that reaches a large group of people, is just more time wasting, you know?
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to say, it's like, what's the biggest thing? What are the things that reach the most people? Superhero movies, But if you go and watch a superhero movie, or if you go and watch Snow White, or if you go and watch whatever, none of these things are actually providing people with trains of thought or resources or questions that would guide that viewer to a conclusion of I should get the fuck off online.
Right.
you know
Yeah.
I should get off these forums. I should stop engaging with these people. I should just try to live my life the best way that I could possibly can, right?
Mm.
Nothing's trying to get people to just kind of be like, hey, let's all get off the fucking internet.
Mm.
Nothing,
Unlike us noble,
right.
squires of peace and
Yeah, right.
justice, dude, telling people to close out YouTube right now or Apple
The
Podcasts.
Yeah, the few hundred folks that listen to us.
But no, but
But again, dude,
seriously, like if you're spending too much time on the internet, get the fuck off this video right
let's talk
now.
about the
Get
internet.
off
Yeah,
podcasts. Like,
yeah.
stop, please. It's like there's that moment in Better Call Saul that I love where Kim is, it's like in season 5, Kim is representing Kevin Wattel, the banker guy, and one of the opposing parties is like about to show him a video of something, and he's like, what is this? And Kim's like, Kevin, I'm advising you to like keep walking. And I always love that moment because it's like, if you just keep walking and walk away, what you don't see can't hurt you. This party is trying to
Mhm,
get you to look. And that's I kind of feel that way about the internet, where it's like, this isn't your friend. Like this isn't your, and look, I'm not saying I'm going to stop using the internet completely. It's just a way of
right, nobody's
life.
gonna do
It's a
that.
reality now. But what I am saying is, you know, don't become don't become that person on Reddit who's like, or on the YouTube comments, who are replying in 30 seconds and getting into these like just tussles. I mean, you'll look at Reddit and you'll see these threads between two people that just go on forever until the screen has run out of width. Out
Mhm,
of width. I don't know why I pronounced that weird. Out of width to fucking hold the thread. Because you know how Reddit threads work. It goes along the width of the screen diagonally.
mhm,
And
mhm.
the screen runs out because they fucking go on so long. And it's
Yeah,
like, and you see it on Facebook, people in these like political groups, like these groups where they just argue politics all day. And it's like, man.
sure.
And I am also aware, by the way, that I made that bingo card joke and we proceeded to cover a very well covered square on that bingo card.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I feel like we led that. I feel like naturally somehow that's what Joe Rogan does though. He brings that out of you where you automatically, I feel like Joe Rogan, once you start talking about that guy, it sends you down this rabbit hole of just hating like modern internet culture, you know?
Yeah.
Because that
But
guy
I think ultimately
he dumbed down our fucking country, dude.
yeah, oh, 100%. I think ultimately the message here for whoever is listening is that if you're spending too much time online, get the fuck off the internet.
Yeah.
Just get off. If you're listening to this podcast and you're like, man, I've been listening to this podcast way too long, get off the fucking podcast. Go do something else. You're listening to dudes talking to each other because they're friends. That's what this show is. We're not trying to grift anybody. We're not trying to convince anybody of any way of living.
Hmm.
And you can know that out of the fact that we're dudes telling you to even stop fucking listening to the show.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
heart is in the right place, guys. Trust me. No,
yeah,
don't listen.
trust
Yeah,
me.
don't trust. Like these people
Now
aren't your
buy
friends,
our merchandise.
right? Well, that's the thing too. You got to realize too, these like figures, they're not your friends. Like I recall, I remember when I was like 17. Maturity is like when at like 17 thinking Dan Bilzerian is cool. Maturity is being 26 and realizing he's a fucking fake dork on steroids
Right,
who just paid for all those
right.
women to be around him and sounds
Yeah,
like an idiot, by the way. Like I saw a clip
yeah.
recently of him talking on a podcast. The guy sounds like a 10-year-old when he talks. Like it's just one of the least eloquent people I've ever listened to. And people will be in the comments like, Dan really makes a good point here. It's like, regarding what? I mean,
Yeah.
he's like, he's sitting there. He's like, yeah, I mean, I just feel like, women, you gotta let them come to you. Like you throw a party and, we're getting the Dan Bilzerian impression going here. We're sort of getting there.
Yeah. This Jake's using AI, by the way. This is not
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
that's not him.
That's not a bad Dan Bilzerian impression. I feel like you gotta put like a heavy like Californian like stupid ass accent on there. Like
Yeah.
I was on steroids for a while. Steroids are great. I saw a clip the other day. It was like steroids are great. I was on the cycle recently. He's like sitting
Really?
there
That's
eating
funny.
almonds. It's like, dude, this guy,
Yeah.
fuck this guy, man.
Yeah. But that's been like my gripe with all this stuff too, that it doesn't seem to me, I might be wrong, like there's anything that's going against that right now.
No, dude,
It
it's
just kind of
so
feels like
bad.
it's just that. It feels like it's that, and there's maybe like voices around being like, "Hey guys, but it just seems like it just feels to me like ultimately it's just kind of like this is just the train that everybody's on.
Yeah.
Nothing's actively trying to dissuade anybody and nobody's making movies or TV shows trying to maybe present these things
Mm,
in any kind of way. James Cameron keeps making Avatar movies, and it's like,
mm.
who's gonna make the Terminator movies? Who's gonna make the movies where it's just like, hey, if we keep going about this with society, things are not gonna be cool. Let's all maybe re-examine.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I don't
we
know.
had that
Yeah.
stupid ass creator movie where it was like AI is like they're like the good guys or whatever. It's like, what the fuck
Haven't even
is
seen that.
this? Like it was
Yeah,
it was so stupid. It's like the AI, all the robots have like their own society where they were like, because they were like oppressed by humans for a while. It's like, guys, like this is like this is fucking stupid. It is not. I don't think that's the conversation we ought to be having about AI yet, considering it's like not even doesn't even seem self aware yet. But
yeah,
yeah, well, because what you're saying, Edward, is true. Because it's like the counter. What's the alternative? Like the counterculture sucks. The counterculture is the
right.
fucking Snow White movie. It's just like it's
Exactly.
equally like fake corporate
Exactly.
woke
Exactly.
woke like bullshit. It's
Yeah.
um yeah, I don't know. Like cuz people aren't interested in that either. People aren't interested. The counterculture is Cardi B interviewing Joe
Mhm.
Biden or like twerking at
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
Kamala Harris rally. You know, it's like people aren't interested in that either.
Aren't interested
You
in
know?
But
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of
It's
the
a
day,
phony,
if you
you know.
like, yeah, at the end of the day, though, like you're not going to get fulfillment out of watching any of those things or spending too much time on the internet. Like it might be mildly entertaining for a while, but there's no fulfillment to be had. I mean,
Yeah.
at least in my experience, it's like got to put it down and do some shit.
Yeah, pick
Yeah,
up a
I want to
book,
find a
man.
solution. That's really the way that I've been thinking. It's like, what is the solution to this? You know,
Reading. Like
yeah,
seriously, reading, dude.
Take a walk.
I've been reading more this year, and like it really is like just it's so true. Like what Stephen King said, like how it's just telepathy. Like when you read, like it just really whether it's fiction or nonfiction for me. Like whether I'm reading fiction
yeah, but you know what the
or
problem with
I'm
that is, Jake? Let
listening
me
to
cut
like
you off right there. Let me
what
cut you off right there.
what
All that
what.
shit, dude, is for losers.
Yeah, you're a
For losers.
nerd.
Nobody's gonna spend their time doing that. If this is like if you get on a soapbox and you go like, everybody, this is the way. Everybody's gonna be like, hey man, fuck that guy. Screw that guy. The guy doesn't have the answer.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is like readership hasn't gone down. I looked that up. I could have sworn I was like,
Really?
oh,
That's good.
readership's definitely gone down, but it hasn't.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, it really does. It does feel like your mind is expanding, you know, and like, dare I say, receiving someone into it. Anyway, I recently, dude. So Edward, you remember in season 1 of Film Tangents, I told stories about a certain place I worked where we poured a certain substance called concrete, and
Oh yeah.
so I just remembered like the best story from that job that I can't believe I forgot to talk about it. So
the
to give,
untold is it something that I heard? I feel like you might have told me this.
I don't know if you've heard it before, but
Okay,
I definitely
go
didn't
ahead.
tell it on the podcast. So for everyone who kind of needs context, back in season 1, I think it was the following episode, but we have a clip anyway on our channel where I talk about basically when I was like 18, 19, I worked for this concrete company, small concrete business run by a former like church friend. Oh, sorry, that's my phone going off. And basically, long story short, I would recommend going back to listen to that clip. But long story short, the boss was like this massive dickhead, and I lasted a summer and like then 1/4 of the next summer before I walked off and blocked his number. Because he was just basically this like massively grumpy guy. His voice was like a combination of like Ray Romano and Don Fry, and then something else. Like he was like a smoker too, so he would just be like, you know, fucking. And he was constantly just being like, it was like his son, and then like this other random guy worked for him, and he was like fine to the random guy because the guy was like around his age and like knew the business better than he did. But then like my son or his son and me got like his wrath throughout the days. And you know, I'm 18, 19, so I just let people talk to me like that, you know. Like when you're a teenager, you know, yeah, it's character building. Like now I would tell someone if my boss dropped an F-bomb on me, I'd tell them to fuck off. But it was different back then. So I got lots of F-bombs dropped on me and everything. But this is not another story about that. This is a story about the time that my boss got bitched out by somebody in front of me. And I loved every second of it, dude. Because it was so cathartic. Like I had spent months just this guy, like, just, you know, fucking Jake, look here, genius, fucking put the concrete in the fucking barrel and fucking wash it out. That's the line that everybody loves when I tell these stories. Look here, genius.
Look here, genius.
Look here, genius. Look here, professor. Well, Jake, bet you'd rather be in a nice air-conditioned office right about now. All right, get the fuck back. Get that fucking... Don't put the fucking thing right there. So it was just that constantly. And again, 18, 19, you just take it. Because I was just a kid. And so I remember, though, one day, it was like the universe saying, you know what, Jake? Karma is real. You know, what goes around comes around. It was the day that I realized, like, oh, there's karma out there. Because it was like an especially grumpy week. It might have been like for my boss. I think it might have been like my last week working for him. And it was just horrific. I mean, we were like, you know, working. He was like, you know, okay, Jake, it's going to rain. It's going to rain in 3 hours. You need to fucking haul fucking ass. You know, just horrific. The guy was a total douche. And so we pull up to this customer's house. We had been working at this guy's house for a couple days at this point. And the customer was like this, like, just tall, chubby, kind of like almost like jolly old man type of character. Almost, I would just picture Santa Claus, honestly, without his suit. Just picture Santa. And you know, he would like come out and talk to us sometimes. He'd be like, oh, nice weather we're having today, you know. And, you know, like, oh, my flowers are growing over here, you know. He's just this big dope. And I remember one day, I guess the previous night, it had rained like a motherfucker. And so it was all wet out the next day. So every day, what my boss would do at this customer's house was he would back the truck up into the customer's backyard. And then we were basically doing concrete by his poolside. So, like normal, my boss starts backing up into the customer's yard, and the tires are like spinning, doing that spinning thing because it's so fucking wet, and they're like
grass.
kicking up grass. And my boss just like doesn't. I don't know if it was just like he hadn't had his caffeine yet or what, but he's just like not paying attention to it. So, like, we pull up, we park the truck, we get out, and we start setting up shop. Next thing I know, I look up, the customer, he like comes out of his back door and steps out of the porch, and he just goes, Jesus fucking Christ! He fucking like walks down, he like stomps down the stairs. He's like, he looks at my boss, he goes, ain't you used to be in the yard business? He goes, my fuck. He goes, my fucking grass all tore up. Ain't you used to be working the lawn business? And he comes over, he starts like pacing around the yard. He just looks at the grass. He's like, Jesus Christ, man. He's like, oh, fucked up. And then, so dude, he like stomps back inside, slams the door. And I just remember like the next hour, I would like look over at my boss. And every few minutes, my boss would kind of like glance at the house and just like roll his eyes. Just kind of mutter to himself like, fucking prick. And then I remember like around lunchtime, the guy came out and it was like nothing happened. Like the guy comes out and he just goes like, nice day out today, huh? But I just remember that moment being like this moment of like, oh shit, there is karma.
Finally.
Because it was
Somebody
like,
yelled at this
yeah,
guy.
like his son and I had just been taking his shit for like weeks at this point. And then to see someone come out and scream his face off was just beautiful. It was just immaculate.
Where are you in the lawn?
Oh, that was my favorite line. Ain't you used to be in the yard business? And he was like a landscaper before he did the concrete.
Really? That's hilarious.
Yeah, so the guy, did you used to be in the yard business?
Well, that's good. He got sound come up and to watch somebody scream at his face.
That was great, man. It was like, you know, karma's real. But anyway, boys, let's get into the recap and then our recaps and get into the movie.
I for one, this year have no recap.
Really?
Yeah,
Nothing,
because
huh?
I didn't watch. I don't think I watched anything. I mean, like I can go on Letterboxd, and I'm pretty sure that the last thing I watched was it was just Infernal Affairs. I haven't listened to anything other than the stuff that we talked about last week. Yeah, I got nothing. Jack, this is your show.
Yeah, let me
Been
take
out,
it from
been
here.
outside and enjoying that springtime weather, huh?
Yeah, dude, sneezing,
Getting off the
like a
internet.
motherfucker.
Yeah, it's really nice out, man. I'm excited for spring. I was getting fucking really sick of hibernation there for a minute.
Yeah, yeah. Finally, dude.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Jack.
I mean, kind of on similar trend from last time. I'm watching season 3 of Invincible now. Got all the way there.
All right.
Yeah, I binged the hell out of that show for a bit, and I've kind of taken a couple days off of watching it because I went a little too hardcore. But that's been great. Still been enjoying that watch, and uh, I don't know. I don't have too much to say about it because I haven't watched it in a couple days, but still just kind of working through it, and I don't know. I don't know if it kind of wore off a little bit the enjoyment that I had of just like watching the first 2 seasons at like a breakneck pace. Sometimes when you watch something just
Like
so
burn
fast
yourself
like
out.
that, yeah, you burn yourself out, but also like you kind of ride the wave of excitement of like just starting a show, and maybe it was never as good as it would be if you watched it over a period of time. So I think that's kind of what I'm feeling a little bit with that show, and kind of not being as motivated to completely finish it out, but still getting some enjoyment and taking my time with it.
Better than me, dude. I only make it past the first episode of shows. That's it. I watched the first episode. I go, that's enough.
Yeah.
I never watched it again.
Been watching Solo Leveling, keeping on that trend, coming out week by week. They just had a big episode. There's an arc where I kind of explained this on the podcast before, but basically it's like dungeons in the real world are popped kind of out of these portals. And there's like these genetically not modified, but like there's people that are capable of like using and harnessing like magical abilities to kind of like go clear them. The arc that it's been on has been kind of a nod to Hunter x Hunter, Chimera Ants, where this like S rank raid is on an island where there are these ants that similar to Hunter x Hunter are like starting to evolve really quickly.
I would say that's. I mean, that's quite
pretty
a
much cut and
copy-paste
dry
they
the
did.
same thing.
That's pretty good.
Quite a copy paste.
I never watched
But,
the
you know, they
Chimera
start to
Ant
grow-
arc. I gotta go watch that.
Dude,
Yeah.
Speak, dude.
So
Speak fiction.
it is so good. I mean, most people think it's. I would say most people think that it's the best arc, but it's pretty controversial as well. Some people don't like it at all.
Yeah. I mean, I love Hunter x Hunter from beginning to end. I love the whole thing.
Me too.
But it did peak there. That was like the peak of the show for sure.
I
think,
agree. But I mean, it was like kind of the climactic fight between the main character and basically the queen births like a king ant. I mean, it's the same
It's
thing.
It's the same thing.
So I mean, plot wise, it's like but the animation's so good. The fights are great. And it's just like this moment where like he has this ability, like he's just chilling in like Korea, like at his house with his family, and they're like filming the raid, and it's like basically going to shit, and he sees it, and he's like, I got to step out for a minute, and he has this ability where like he puts these shadows on other people, his like shadow soldiers, and he can like instantly switch locations with them, so he like instantly switches and shows up and just starts like kicking ass. It was just such a good fight episode, probably the climax of this second season, so it was a fun watch. Trying to think what else. I've been on a little bit of an EDM kick, listening to some Rufus de Soul. Trying to pull up Spotify here and see what else. A little bit of John Summit as well. A little bit of Calvin Harris, and just kind of more, I don't know. I got tired of listening to rap at the gym.
Yeah.
And I think a little of that definitely showed out last week too, with the
Yeah, for
Playboy
sure.
Cardi album and me just being like, yeah, this is ass.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I
I'm
burned
so
myself out a little bit too, man, because with all that Lil Yachty and then with the Playboy Cardi, I think that's why I was like, I'm not listening to music for a few
yeah,
days.
I think so too. I think I really burned myself out with rap music, especially working out. So I'm trying to branch out, and kind of find some other sounds that are a little more sustainable, or maybe build a larger playlist, so I won't be as burnt out on certain songs. But that's kind of been the trend music wise. I don't think I watched any movies. Surprise, surprise. This is
Yeah.
usually my one movie a week. Two is impressive for me. But I think that's it for the recap for me.
All right.
Oh, I have one more thing. I did finish the first season of White Lotus with a girlfriend,
All right.
and I honestly got some enjoyment out of it. I liked that first season, um, but kind of started the second one, and it's like kind of in Italy. It sucks. I don't like it at all.
That's
It's
what.
just
That's why I'm not gonna go backwards. That's why I was like, I'll just watch the season that's premiering and just call it that. You know.
yeah, the second one's ass. Like I just don't like the characters. Can't get into it at all. It's really boring. So I don't know. Maybe I'll check out the. I think we're thinking of just skipping it and just starting
Yeah,
the
just
third
skip it,
one.
dude. It's an anthology. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're gonna skip it because both of us were just sitting there today watching it, just like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is so
Yeah.
boring. But yeah, that's it.
Nice. Yeah, for me, the only other movie I watched was I rewatched Breakdown with Kurt Russell.
Oh, really? I
Uh
think did I recommend you that movie? I think I did.
yeah, you did. There's actually literally
Yeah.
a clip from season 1 of us having this conversation where I was like, at your request, I watched it. You were like, at my request, and I was like, well, at your
Yeah.
recommendation, you know.
Yeah.
But dude, like it's funny. So because I watched Cape Fear this past week and I visited my parents. I was home for my
Mhm,
mother's birthday and my
mhm,
sister and I were hanging out and it was between Cape Fear and Breakdown because we were like, let's watch a great thriller. And
mhm.
I was like, it's kind of like a coin toss. These are both great, but I was like, Cape Fear is great. Let's watch that, and then so when I was with my girlfriend the other day, I was like, let's watch Breakdown because my girlfriend
Yeah.
was in like thriller mode. I don't know what it is about the springtime, man. People want to be watching thrillers in the spring. I
Excitement.
don't know if there's
Yeah.
something in the air or if it's just a coincidence that I've been experiencing. But yeah, Breakdown, it's like almost as good as Cape Fear, I would say. I would say it just kind of falls behind Cape Fear in terms of theme and symbolism and stuff. There's not near as much
Mhm,
like rich thematic symbolism in Breakdown. It is
mhm.
more of like a cut and dry, exciting thriller
Yeah.
that's not that thematically dense, and I think that's where Cape Fear sort of supersedes a movie like Breakdown, is in its thematic density. But anyway, so Breakdown, yeah, like that is one of the most fun thrillers, dude, and it's so underrated. Like you got Kurt Russell in here. He
Mhm.
plays a guy who he and his wife are driving through the middle of nowhere. Basically looks like Radiator Springs and cars. Just that southwestern desert landscape, and their car breaks down, and essentially, his wife hitches a ride while he stays with the car. She hitches a ride with a trucker, and
Gas and return.
right, and she doesn't return. He goes to meet her where they were supposed to meet at a diner. She's not there, and it turns into this whole kind of mystery thing. And the less said, the better. But I don't want to ruin it for anybody or
Fun
give
movie.
people more. But yeah, it's so much fun. Like you got Kurt Russell's character is just this everyman guy, and he's kind of an oaf too. And he
Yeah.
has to really fucking dig deep to like, figure out what's going on and then rescue his wife, so it's man, it's so much fun. It really reminds me a lot of a story like um Stephen King's got a short story. I think it's called Rest Stop, and it's similar. Like it's like this everyman who comes upon like this a case of like very severe domestic violence at a rest stop, and he has to really kind of like dig deep to help this woman and then defend himself too. Very similar vibe, or it just feels very much like you're watching like it's similar to like Steven Spielberg's Duel too. I actually think Breakdown's a little better than Duel, but Duel's excellent as well. But yeah, man, just a fun, tight thriller that is just very stressful, very heart pounding. This has to be one of my favorite thrillers. Honestly, it's so underrated too. I had never heard of this movie until you mentioned it, Edward. And this is one of those movies that I watch, and it's like I have the opposite reaction of the Red Letter Media fuck movies thing, where I watch a movie like this and I'm like, man, I love movies. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm just like, man, movies fucking
It's
rule.
good to throw those in every now and then.
Yeah, man. It's like,
Dude.
man, like cinema rocks, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Were you about to say something about that movie, Edward? Or?
No. I think we've
Oh.
covered it pretty well. I don't think I have anything to add, especially because I haven't seen it since I first mentioned it.
Yeah. I guess this is worth bringing up again too, but I think in the original clip I said that and I stand by this. This movie it has got to be the inspiration for the Family Guy chicken fights. Like it just has to be. It has everything, dude. The high-speed chases, the ridiculous fight, the moments where like some huge tanker or truck like tumbles over and there's a ton of collateral damage. And then there's a super tight situation where things are like gravity's in play, where like things are about to fall and characters are fighting with everything they can get their hands on. And then the one character dies and then has like a fake death and then like a real death where like something ridiculous happens that kills them. And then there's like somber music that plays after, you know, as the character like contemplates what just happened. It's like it's got the chicken fight written all over it, dude. It is. I tried. I even asked ChatGPT. There's no information, but maybe I'll ask my buddy Seth MacFarlane.
Maybe we should email him.
Yeah. And then I've been getting really into How I Met Your Mother, actually.
Really?
Love that show.
It's so good. Dude, so my girlfriend got me on it like a few weeks ago. I had watched it before with you, Jack. And but it was just a random episode. But I didn't realize, like, my girlfriend wanted to put an episode of something on real quick. And she was like, let's put on How I Met Your Mother. And I was like, well, what's the best episode of that? She was like, no, you got to watch it from the beginning.
Yeah, I gotta watch from the beginning.
And I was like, okay. Yeah, because it's not like Seinfeld. Like, it is like, and that's its
There's
strength.
An overarching plot.
Yeah, that's its strength. Like, I don't even care about it in the sense of like, because I go to watch something like Seinfeld and it's like just funny. It's like just to laugh, or Family Guy or South Park, like whatever it is. It's very episodic. But with How I Met Your Mother, like, it's written like a drama. You know, it's formatted like a sitcom, but it's written like a drama. Like, I'm invested, dude. I want to know what happens next, you know?
Oh, dude, go back to me in 2013.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm on like season 2. I just finished that episode where like, the other day I finished the episode where they find out Robin was like a Canadian pop star or whatever.
Yeah,
dude.
Is that one?
Let's go to the
Robin Sparkles.
Today.
Was it something?
Yeah,
Sparkles?
Robin Sparkles.
Yeah.
Dude, I've watched that show like front to back, like multiple times. Like,
really?
I can quote you and you can watch.
Damn.
It's so funny, man. It is funny too. I mean, especially Barney. Like, Barney's hilarious.
Barney's a legend.
And I was skeptical. Like, when I went into it, I thought Barney would be like kind of annoying, but he's actually like not. He's like hilarious, dude.
No, Neil Patrick Harris is perfect because he just plays that character perfectly. You can see how he's kind of in a tightrope. You know, he could go in that direction, but he plays it perfectly.
He really does. I just love how like carefree he is. You know. I mean, he's a scumbag, but it's also like there are aspects of that character where it's like, you know, you would like to be a little more like that. Like, so like, I love the fucking, what do you do for a living? Please. Yeah, I love that shit.
They'll get into that eventually. They'll actually like answer that question.
I know. I already know they will. Because it's a show that sets things up and they pay things off really well.
Yeah.
I find it.
I'm interested. I want us to have this kind of continuing conversation about it as you watch that show, because I want to know how your opinion evolves as you keep watching it. it's 9 seasons, so, we'll see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's long.
Yeah, it's going to be a slow and steady wins the race kind of thing for sure, but it yeah, so one thing that I noticed about it that I really like about How I Met Your Mother is the frame. I like the frame story, like the concept's great, but I think what really is interesting about it is, and ironically, to another piece of media that I'm about to get into, which is that I finished that Empire of the Vampire book, and it kind of does the same thing, but one's a sitcom and one is a dark fantasy novel, but they use the same technique where it's like, in How I Met Your Mother, it's like Ted spoils the story for you already. Like he says, and that's how I met your Aunt Robin. It's like, oh, you already
Mhm.
know they don't end up together, so
Right.
it sort of, but it's kind of brilliant in that way. Like there are shows like um there's a lot of shows that do this sometimes where they'll show you something and then it's like 3 weeks earlier, and it's interesting when stories like spoil themselves cuz oftentimes you're like, well, now I just want to see how it happened. It's almost
Mhm.
more exciting because now it's like, well, now I know they won't work out. So there's suspense. It's not like, I know it's not going to be some stupid like Jim and Pam, will they or won't they thing.
Right, right.
It's like, no, Ted and Robin are, there's a will they won't they aspect in season 1, but they don't overplay that either. Like there was a while in season 1 where I was like, oh, that's done. Like Ted and Robin are
Yeah.
done. But then they revisit it later. But then they're together in season 2, but it's like, well, this isn't going to work out. So you're looking
Right,
for the
right.
signs, the threads that are you're looking for the cracks,
Yeah.
yeah, so really well written, man. I gotta
Oh,
say.
dude, it's a great show. It's a great show. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm late to the party, but
Yeah,
as
you're
a,
late to the
I'm
party.
not a big,
Never too late.
yeah, I'm not a huge sitcom guy. That's my thing. Like
Yeah.
when
I
I
was
was,
just I was just, like, really into sitcoms for a while because you know that it's like I
mm,
watched Big Bang Theory,
yeah,
2 and a Half Men, like, all those big sitcoms of some time.
hmm
How I Met Your Mother, I had to watch so many of them. Like, for some reason, when I was a teenager, I was, like, really into sitcoms. But, yeah.
well, that was my thing. Like at one point when I was like in middle school, like that was like my dream was to create a sitcom, like an animated
Mhm,
sitcom. Like I was really
mhm.
into like Family Guy, The Simpsons, and South Park. I was like, that's what I want to do. Um, but yeah, like yeah, so I had a phase. For me, it was more with like just the animated stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and then of course when we were kids, there were the kid sitcoms. I watched all those,
Drake
obviously.
and Josh,
Yeah.
Street Life on Life Life Concordia, all that shit.
Yeah. So I think everybody has some level of experience with sitcoms. I'm
Mhm.
kind of like I'm probably below average on sitcoms, to be honest, because most people I meet have like watched, The Office all the way through, or like
Yeah,
How I Met Your
though
Mother
I
all
hate
the
The
way
Yeah.
Office,
through.
so I haven't even watched, like, a completed episode of that show.
Yeah, but for me, it's like, well, I haven't really like I've seen. There's like a couple. I could count on one hand the amount of sitcoms I've watched all the way through.
Mhm.
Probably not. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably still have 2 or 3 fingers left over. So anyway, and then moving on, I finished finally the 200. I believe it's 250,000 word novel. That novel's a fucking brick, but I finally finished it. Empire of the Vampire, which I mentioned 3-4 weeks ago that I had started. Um, Jay Kristoff is the author. Uh, it is a horror fantasy novel, takes place in a secondary world, so kind of like Game of Thrones. The concept is essentially that there this event called Day's Death has occurred, basically meaning the sun has become blotted out by some strange natural phenomenon or supernatural phenomenon. The characters don't know. It's medieval, so they don't know what the hell's going on, but there's still a daytime and a nighttime, but day is just sort of this overcast look from what I understand. It's basically like a nuclear winter in a sense. This allows 4 different bloodlines of vampires to sort of start taking over the continent, essentially, and establishing empires, right, and enslaving humans. And so the main character, he figures out early on in the novel that he is a half vampire or half blood, the offspring of a human mother and a vampire father. And so he goes to this, he basically becomes initiated into this holy order of other half bloods who fight vampires. Um, yeah, I mean, so my kind of main thoughts on the book, I would say this was like a solid 7, 8 out of 10 novel. I really enjoyed it. Like there were parts I was rarely bored. Like there were, you could cut down some of it at 250,000 words. Like I feel like it always is hard to justify a book that is that long, to be honest. Like there's always going to be filler you probably could have cut out. But it's interesting because the frame story is, I alluded to this before, but the frame story is the main character on death row in a tower in one of the vampire empires, like, and one of the vampires is like a historian that's getting his story, and that's the format that the book is in, is like his story. So you already know that this ends tragically, right? Like, so it's interesting. It's like, oh shit, well, spoiler, but you want to see how it went wrong. You want to see, like, what the fuck, how did this happen? Like, are all the characters that you came across, are all the supporting characters dead? So I would say this, like, the strengths of the novel, like, it's got a lot of solid it's got a lot of solid world building. There's a lot of solid the plot is the plot is, it's never boring. Like there's enough elements in there. There's different factions of villains and enough sort of complications to kind of keep you interested. So like, they're being pursued by like, this vampire clan. They're being pursued by this mysterious masked vampire. They're being pursued by these inquisitors who, torture people for a living, so it's like, it definitely keeps you engaged. I would say one thing about Empire of the Vampire, though, is, and I knew this going in because I'd heard people say this, it really wears its influences on its sleeve, to the point that there are things in this where I'm like, that is literally the plot of X. Like, I can't even say, there was a part in this book where I was like, oh my God, this whole thing is the plot of X. And I don't even want to name X because it would give the fucking plot away. Like, you would know the plot of the book because it's the same, just in a different skin. And I was like, fuck. So I don't know how I feel about that, because then you look at it and you're like, well, I guess this is different. And I guess that is different. But those things that are different are also kind of stolen. Like, there's this whole concept. This is like not really spoilery, so I'll name this thing. Like, there's a concept in here where the concept is cool, where it's like when a vampire drains you of your blood, 3 things will happen. Either you die, and the vampire doesn't get to choose. It's a random event. It's random chance. You either die forever, or you come back immediately as a vampire, or you rot for a couple days and then come back, and you're basically a zombie, and you're a zombie slave of the vampire. So it's like the Night King in Game of Thrones with the White Walkers, where he's able to raise an army of the dead and then they all do his bidding. It's the same thing, where I was like, oh, there's like a scene where this vampire lord is marching up to a fortress, and there's all these, they call them wretched, which are rotted vampire slaves. Their brain has rotted too, so they're just mindless, killing machines. And I was like, those are the White Walkers. Like, it's the same thing. So final verdict, great book, but very familiar. So that is kind of what held this book back. Maybe I know the 3rd one is coming out, I believe, at the end of this year. So I do want to read the second book at some point this year. So maybe we'll get into less familiar territory in the second book. I don't know. But I will say there were a couple twists in this book too that I didn't see coming. And one twist that I found very obvious to the point that I was like, why didn't they just say this up front? Like, this is so obvious. I can't even believe he expected. Did he really think anyone thought that wasn't the case? You know? Anyway, so if you are a heavy fantasy reader, I would say you're going to find a lot of familiar shit in Empire of the Vampire. Or even not even a fantasy reader, but if you're just a consumer of genre fiction, of speculative fiction, whether it's films or TV or whatever, you're going to find a lot of familiar stuff in Empire of the Vampire. So if that really bothers you, if originality is a huge thing for you, maybe keep that one on the back burner. Proceed with caution. But if that doesn't bother you and you just want a good story, you don't mind stuff that's maybe a bit overly familiar and borders on ripoff, then go for it. Personally, I'm kind of somewhere in the Personally, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. Like, because I really still enjoyed this book. I don't mind borrowing and I don't mind stealing either. But there is a point. Like, the one thing that I'm thinking of was there was a step too far in the climax where I was like, that is so way too similar to this other thing. And that did hold it back for me. And then to wrap it up, I I didn't talk about this before, but Currency released a new tape, him and Harry Fraud. It's called Never Catch Us. It was solid. A lot of solid. Currency is like one of my he's like in my top. He's probably in my top 10 rappers, definitely top 20. But I really enjoy his like.
He's 19.
Right. Yeah. Currency's great though, man. Currency, he just has like a lot of great. That's one of my favorite types of hip hop. Just sample heavy, jazzy, boom bap, spacey kind of beats. He works a lot with Alchemist, Harry Fraud, really well with those producers. And yeah, this was a solid mixtape or album or whatever you want to call it. What's the difference these days?
Yeah.
The most interesting standout feature for me was there was I think I sent this to you, Edward. Dram is on this album.
Yeah, you did send it to me.
If anyone doesn't remember who that is, remember the song Broccoli from 2016 with Lil Yachty. Dram is featured on this album and has a great verse, a beautiful verse. Like, that guy's got a great voice and a fantastic verse over a fantastic beat. I don't remember what the song is called, so forgive me. I'm not going to look it up, but just find the one with Dram on it. I think it's like the last track or second to last or toward the bottom. But yeah, it was great. And then Smoke DZA, who I'm also a big fan of, very underrated. He's even more underrated than Currency, I would say. Same type of music, even more stoner heavy music than Currency. It's very much like that, 2000s kind of like Wiz Khalifa, like that 2009 kind of era of rap music. I really enjoy that stuff, man. Just spaced out, kind of, just very like stoner comedy rap, I guess. But it's, it's not overly goofy either. Like Smoke DZA's stuff, it's just stuff that you could imagine yourself sitting down, eating a bowl of cereal and watching cartoons, and like that's playing. It's like a soundtrack for that. I was a little disappointed by Smoke DZA's new tape. It's called the Barcelona tape. I didn't really like it. I thought production wise and rap like verse wise, I don't think either really hit for me. So kind of disappointed there. Definitely doesn't measure up to like his best projects. Like he has that I think it's called George Cush from like 2010, I think. He's got some great like chill hop kind of stoner rap. So if you like that stuff, give Smoke DZA a listen. And then lastly, there's a rapper. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but his name's Key with an exclamation point. Have you guys ever heard of that guy?
How do you spell that?
KEY exclamation point,
Okay.
and it's in all
No, I
caps.
haven't heard of him.
He's featured on a lot of stuff. Apparently, he's like one of Post Malone's big influences, but he's an Atlanta-based rapper, and he used to make his stuff was kind of like Smoke DZA or Currency's music, but with a sprinkle of like Atlanta trap in there too. So kind of an interesting flavor. And I listened to his mixtape Mothers Are the Blame. And yeah, like good stuff. Like I would love to hear more. I would love to hear more hip hop artists kind of go in that direction, because like God knows we have enough trap stuff, and like let's do some more interesting stuff. Like let's bring boom bap back and make it cool, you know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Is it movie time for us?
It's that time, man. Let's get into it, boys. Movie of the week. Martin Scorsese's 1991 or 92? 91, I think.
91.
91, yeah.
Thank you. Cape Fear, starring Robert De Niro. This was both of your first times watching this, so you
That's
boys,
right.
Yep.
you boys take the floor.
Although funnily enough, I was kind of spoiled by that Rick and Morty episode.
Do
you know what I'm
they-
talking about?
Do they parody? I don't know if I know.
They
that
parody
one.
it. They parody it in there's like an episode of Rick and Morty where they parody both like the Titanic and Cape Fear.
Huh?
And it's where like where Jerry has this kind of like weird thing with this lady that he meets on the Titanic.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie she goes like Cape Fear, just like, you know, hanging by their car. But it ends there in the episode because they go over a speed bump and then it just kind of like hammers her down.
I do remember that was fucking funny, dude. I know that I remember too. There was like a Simpsons episode that parodied Cape Fear with Sideshow Bob too. But yeah, I do remember that Rick and Morty episode now. That's funny. But yeah, Jack, what you got on Cape Fear? What do you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
Honestly, I thought it was definitely enjoyed the watch of this movie for what it was. Kind of thought it was an interesting idea of just kind of like the lawyer versus, you know, his own previous client 14 years later. You know, kind of come to find out later in the movie, you know, that he omitted evidence which would have got his client off on you know, the 14-year sentence that he served. But I thought it was really interesting throughout this movie, kind of how we see the lawyer, you know, not being able to defend himself by what he's devoted his life to in the court of law.
Yeah.
You know, he's not able to really, you know, this convict got smart, you know, in his time in jail, because I think when I was reading up on the movie, it was saying he was like illiterate at the point of when he was convicted.
Yeah, they mentioned it in the movie too, because Nick Nolte says that when he first had him as his client, he had to read him the stuff that he was being convicted of and stuff like that.
I think I must have missed that with my ADHD brain, but that makes a lot of sense. So like he really studied up and got smart, and you know, really kind of flipped the script on the lawyer and kind of makes him you know, kind of wrestle with his morality and what he's willing to do to kind of protect his family. It does a really good job of just kind of like being like kind of slowly you know, closing in on that family and just like putting them in uncomfortable situations. And you know, kind of I mean the part where he's with the affair partner, or like not exactly a fair partner, but you know, could have been a fair partner.
Yeah, the lady that he was like being all flirtatious with.
Yeah, and probably would have had an affair with. But like the bite of the face and just the spit out, I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah.
And just like totally unexpected for me a little bit. I didn't know exactly
that part
where that
is
was going to go.
shocking, man. Like, you know he's about
Yeah,
to do something bad, but it's so animalistic the way he just like bites down on her face like that. You brought up a great point, man. Like that the lawyer was being failed by the law basically. Like every avenue he took, every legal avenue that he took was
yep,
and it was kind of like karma in a way for him because it was like he kind of betrayed the law when he omitted the evidence. And I'm not saying he was wrong to do that, by the way. That's the whole point of the movie is what's really gonna it's like what is the movie is really asking kind of the question of like what's morality and where does the law where do the law and reality sort of fork off? Where is that fork in the road, you know? Because it's like what's going to lead to a better society where lawyers uh you know stab their piece of shit clients in the back, or where lawyers uh represent their client to the fullest extent of the law and give their client proper representation, uh
yeah,
really freaking interesting question there, and it was interesting then to see him be failed uh by the law. And it was like once again he had to kind of take the law into his own hands the way he did all those years ago by omitting that evidence. But yeah.
Mhm. Go ahead.
yeah. So I mean, I really thought that was also like kind of the scales of justice tattoo was pretty good.
Yeah.
Kind of visual for that, especially in that interrogation room scene when they bring him in. I think it was for killing the dog. They were trying to pin some evidence
Mhm.
on him,
Mhm.
which they weren't really able to find anything. But like him, just kind of he knew like he was behind there, just watching or
Mhm.
looking at that double mirror. And
Oh
just kind of
yeah.
the tattoos, yeah, symbolism is just like
Mhm.
uh, he had all those kind of. I mean, the one guy says like, I don't know if to what to do to look at him or to read him because he had all those
Yeah.
like quotes and tattoos on him and stuff. But really coming to um the luring tactics too with the younger daughter. I mean that was pretty creepy, man, honestly, like the posing
Yeah.
to be the drama teacher.
Yeah, that was
And that's when
sickening.
we it was really sickening, and that's when I started to really. I mean, obviously, with the other situation, with the raping the other, woman and assaulting her was, I mean, crazy. But you really begin to see kind of like the mental kind of twistedness of like his mind through just kind of the way he's going through these extra steps to lure her there and to like try to make her kind of make advances with her and kind of just like fuck with this guy's daughter and not even
Mhm.
like really like kill her or do anything, but just like send she gets out of there and goes back home, and it's just that slow kind of like I could have you whenever I want you kind of thing. uh it's only a matter of time. Was
Right. It's like
was
playing
pretty
with his food
crazy.
kind of thing.
Yeah, and he did
Yeah.
that even too. Like he did. I mean and that's kind of ultimately like was a downfall of his. Was
Yeah.
I mean he had no, uh, no shortage of chances to kill, this family, any one of them. Um,
Mhm.
kind of the ending of this movie, just kind of being on the boat, the river boat, was just so. I loved that scene, just that whole sequence on the
It
boat.
was
Uh,
incredible.
I mean, I've never seen anything like that in a movie with just the him getting on the boat, kind of having the like weather event going on, having the husband kind of set up in a place where like he's tied up, and if he comes conscious, he can like see through and watch, and then drags him through, and then just like kind of how it starts, just like spiraling downhill as like that anchor. Gets cut and they start going down the river, the weather intensifies, like they start kind of getting into physical altercations, and in the end, uh coming to a pretty satisfying ending that I'll let you guys elaborate more on. But I mean, this movie, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wanted to say too, like touching on that scene with the where Max Cady poses as the drama teacher. Really the whole movie though too. Juliette Lewis, I mean, what an amazing actress. I've never seen a performance quite like this where the way she plays like a naive teenage girl, it's like it was I think that's what makes it so disturbing is like how because I feel like a movie nowadays would have the girl be like kind of a boss bitch in a way where she's just like, you're not my teacher, you're not a real teacher, you know, and it's like, but in this movie it was real, it was frighteningly realistic where it was like she as this teenager she was just kind of submitting to an authority, you know, where it was like, well, this guy says he's my teacher, so he must be my teacher, and oh, he's smoking a joint, so it must be okay, you know, and like,
Mhm,
oh, he's, you know, touching me now, I guess this is okay, you know, and it was so fucking disturbing the way she just did that whole like kind of, you know, like I don't know, just like batting her eyelashes, you know, and like that kind of like awkward shyness. I
Yeah,
really felt just very like I don't know, for lack of a better term, just like really like protective of her character. Like I wanted to jump into the screen and be like, get the fuck away from this guy. Like, oh my God, you know, like I really just, you know, I'm not a father, but I felt like the pain of how like that a father might feel from that scene of like, oh my God, like please leave this girl alone, man. And it was frightening because I think that is how predators operate probably
mhm,
in real life. They take advantage of and Max Cady, it was like it was no accident that, you know, he did that after he sowed seeds of discord between the two parents. You know, it was like he knew that by kind of breaking up this household, it would make Juliette Lewis's character more vulnerable, and that was just horrifying. And I love that little detail of when he pulls up to the house and he's talking to the mom, and then when
like spins off when he
the
sees
daughter
her.
comes
Yeah,
out, he speeds away. And even on my
yeah.
second watch, I was like, why the fuck did he do that? And then you
He didn't
realize,
want her
like,
to
oh,
recognize him.
he's
Yeah,
got this other plan going. Like, and that's when
yeah.
you really realize too that like this guy's got this all fucking thought out. You know, I mean, this
Mhm.
guy is playing chess. Um, but yeah, what about you, Edward? What'd you think, man?
Yeah, no, I had the same thoughts that you did. Especially like I remember before he got him beat up and he comes into that diner just to be like, "You better leave town." It's like, dude, this guy's probably recording you. And then he asks him like, "Can you repeat that?" You know, and it's like, come on.
I know. It's like,
Um,
dude, aren't you a lawyer, man? Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, very very Machiavellian from his side. He just kind of I guess he had 14 years to just kind of put this whole thing together and just
Yeah.
try to see how he can push this guy's buttons to just get away with all the stuff he's doing.
Yeah, because
Really
Max Cady
interesting.
had all of those years. He learned the art of patience in prison versus this fast-paced, very emotional lawyer. Like the main character, he's a very kind of like I don't know if he's extremely emotional. He's just on an average. I guess he's pretty average when it comes to humans, but people tend to react to things emotionally. Like if you were being
Mm,
stalked, we all like to think like, oh, I would just be rock solid and play chess with him back. Like, no, you'd be like,
right.
what the fuck is going on? Get the fuck away from my house, you know?
Mhm.
And
Especially because
yeah.
he's the one with stuff to lose, right? Because the
Yeah.
thing with Max Caddy is that he doesn't he doesn't have anything to lose. He's just playing this game with these people, and almost like accepting himself into their lives.
Yeah.
Very cool shot. That shot of him like with the fireworks, visual effects. He was apparently just sitting in front of like a blue screen, but still pretty sick shot of De Niro with a bunch of fireworks blowing up behind him.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So very fascinating. I read up a little bit on this movie about what Scorsese chose to change. 'Cause this is a remake of a movie from 1962. Same name, based on a book called The Executioners. And in the remake, funnily enough, the guy who is the lieutenant, like the police officer, Robert Mitchum is his name. He was the villain. He was Max Cady in the
Mm.
original film, which he's also the villain in a great classic movie called, I think, The Night Hunter, if I'm correct. Which I saw that movie. It's a really great movie. That's also where the whole tattoos of like love and death or whatever come from, or love and hate. That then Spike Lee stole and he used in Do the Right Thing. But just a little bit of like movie trivia. But yeah, they changed a lot of stuff because in the original sequencing of this movie, basically the lawyer character, Sam, he's supposed to basically just be kind of like a goody two shoes in the sense that he just has a wife and a kid and everybody's happy, you know. And in this remake, Scorsese was the one who said, like, hey, I want there actually to be like discord in the family, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're having troubles with their kid, they're having troubles in the relationship. Um, and I think that added, you know, to just kind of like the general tensions, you know, because then it causes, you know, then we have those scenes with them in the house just yelling at each other, like you said, Jake, which just leads to then the child just kind of becoming isolated, and then he can just prey on her because he knows that he's isolated her, you know. And then also from early on in the movie, we know that this guy has some kind of access to their house, you know,
Hmm.
like he's being able to just kind of come in and out of their house, just kind of willy nilly. And we know that that's kind of how he got to the dog, you know. And it's funny that the main character, Sam, he doesn't realize this until way too late. Because then, you know, by the time that they already have the kind of the detective in their house, like the not the detective, like the private eye, the PI guy, he wakes up in the middle of the night and he's like, he's been in the house. He's been getting in and out of the house, you know. But by that point, he already killed the maid, and he already killed the PI.
Yeah.
Um, so again, this guy's just complete psychopath, right?
Mm.
And he's just toying with his people, toying with his people. It's interesting that I think it's her, like his wife, that she has like this like instance where she wakes up, or maybe it's him, and he like sees him standing in front of him, like smoking in front
Mhm.
of him. And I think
Yeah.
that actually might have happened, you know, that he was just like, is he there? And he's not there. But again, it's just because apparently he's just been in and out of this house, you know, just kind of fucking with these people.
Yeah.
It's funny because then even their little airport thing where they were trying to pretend like the dad wasn't there, obviously didn't work out. He figured it out in the end. But yeah, just his ability, and applause to De Niro because he just delivered an incredible performance. Apparently, this was his last like leading role nominated performance. He wasn't nominated for Casino, and everything he's been nominated for since has just been like supporting actor, because now he's just been like the old guy who's a supporting actor. He's not doing leading roles anymore. Um, but yeah, very fascinating, great performance from him. Love the southern accent that he has in this movie.
We're
And like you
approaching
said,
the ninth circle of hell.
yeah, like you said, the young lady, I forget the name of the actress, but she got nominated for an Oscar for this movie. The only Oscar she's ever been nominated for.
Rightly so.
Um, and she must have, I think when they made this movie, she was 17, 18. Just
Yep.
probably just like barely 18, because I did the calculation with her age. And Scorsese was clearly looking for like a very young actress, because I also read some of the trivia that they had tried to cast like actresses that were just like teenage girls that were in sitcoms from the 80s, like Saved by the Bell and stuff like that. And for one of them, the guy who acted as like the sitcom dad, he opposed it. Ted, what is it? No, Tony Danza. He was one of the. It was like the his daughter in his show. They were trying to cast her, and he was like, "No, you guys are not gonna cast her." So she turned down the role because he opposed it. And then the girl from Saved by the Bell, they were trying to get her. And then I think the producer of that show was like, "No, that's not happening," you know. So they were just trying to get these like young actresses to be in the movie, getting turned down, and then obviously she ended up doing the role. But like you said, Jake, she was incredible. Obviously, she has the advantage of being very young. There's only 2, maybe 1 year removed of the age of the character that she was playing.
Hmm.
But she did play those scenes like very convincingly, and like you said, that really just adds to kind of the vitriol and the anger and fear that you fear for her character when she's there with him in what we know is like this very secluded area of the school, you know. And he does take like a great deal of advantage of her, but like you said, Jack, then he just kind of stops, you know, because we know that's there's no satisfaction in this guy with that. Like we know that, you know. Like he also could have gone way further with the lady that Sam was seeing on the side, but he just chose to, you know, just basically, you know, destroy her face and assault her. So we know that the thing with this guy is not even just like kind of any kind of like pleasure for him. It's just like the only thing that that guy has any pleasure in is just in hurting the Sam character.
Yeah.
'Cause that's why he was like, I'm not even gonna do this. You know,
Hmm.
it's possible that he could have taken that further with that girl and you know, but he just like no.
He
You know, the
wanted
whole
to
thing with him
plant the
is
seed of doubt in Sam. He wanted to plant the idea in Sam's mind that he had touched her,
yeah,
which
exactly.
he
And then
touched her, meaning like worse, not
we
just
did more than that, yeah.
right, exactly.
And then ultimately, you know, ultimately the thing for him is just like I want it to be happening in front of this guy. You know, like I need him to suffer. I just want to make him suffer.
Mhm.
You know, I'm gonna destroy his family and he needs to watch me do it. Ultimately that's obviously what he wanted. Um but yeah, fascinating. Fascinating performance. It's also even creepy how he dies, you know, because he's just like drowning, but he's like
Yeah, he looks
speaking in
at him.
tongues, you
Oh
know?
yeah, yeah.
The gibberish, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
amazing performance. That final sequence, like you touched
Oh,
on it, Jack, it's so good. Because it just goes on. It goes on way longer than you think it's going to.
mhm,
Like you keep thinking like, "Oh, this is the moment they beat him," and they don't. Like when she sets him on fire, you're like, "Oh, which that was great." That is
yeah.
yep.
I forgot about that because it's been like a good 5
It's
years since I saw this
racist.
movie. Yeah, what a
Yeah.
clever character too. Like movie
Mhm.
characters used to be so smart, man. They're not
Yep.
smart anymore.
Yeah, that
Which
was
I
very
guess,
clever.
yeah, which it's like I guess it's more realistic that a 16-year-old girl wouldn't be that smart, but it's more entertaining when characters are clever like that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, man, like that. I love that final sequence on the boat, man. It's like they think they're safe on that boat, and it's like, no, dude, that guy's
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's fucking
And
here.
the belt that he has on the bottom of their car, like that he's
Yeah.
strapped to the axle,
Oh
and he's just like
yeah,
that person sees him like
Yeah, he sees
unstrapping
him.
it
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. But then
yeah,
she kind
yeah.
of goes like, I don't, you know, I don't mean no business, you know. Goes into the bathroom. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That was an interesting moment, man, when he gets spotted, and it's like,
I
man,
like I liked the reversals that they had with him and with Sam, because you know when he first confronts Sam, he takes the keys out of his car and they have this conversation, and Sam's sitting in the car and he's kind of standing over him.
yeah,
I like how they reverse that later, where then he pulls up on Sam in his car, and then
mm,
they have the same basically back and forth. And they're just brilliant staging and directing from Scorsese, because even then, every scene that De Niro and the Sam character, Nick Nolte, share, Nick Nolte just comes across so small, even though he's technically like way taller than De Niro is, even. The way they shot it, it just always makes De Niro just feel like the character that has the power, you know. Even when he's sitting down and Nolte's like standing over him, it's pretty fascinating. And I also found the ending really interesting, you know, because it ends with them just in the mud,
uh-huh,
and then and the thing that came out of Nick Nolte's character at the end of the movie was that he was gonna kill him, you know.
yeah,
And we have that moment where he's washing his hands, and it cuts to his hands, and he almost sees like De Niro's hands as his hands, you know. And then he's like, "What the," you know.
yeah, yeah,
So very fascinating, you know, because obviously even though they defeated him, you know, he in a sense, he kind of entrenched himself in them, and, you know, we have that little bit of a monologue at the end from the girl where she's kinda talking like, "Oh, you know, we don't talk about him anymore,
yeah.
or
It's
we
like
didn't
you're
talk about
never
him to each other." Yeah,
right.
but he exists, you know, it's like this
Yeah,
nightmare that they all share, and he pushed them to, like, their limits, you know?
I love
A lot of
that
weird
final
symbolism in
shot, man. Like, hold that thought. I was gonna say I love that final shot where it just we zoom in on Juliette Lewis's face with her
mm,
monologue going, and then it does that photo negative thing. It's so
Mhm.
eerie, man. It's just so fucking creepy. Like freeze
yeah.
frame endings. Bring back
Yeah.
freeze frame endings. They're
It's very
really
ending, yeah,
creepy. Funny
yeah.
games, I'm thinking of.
And they did that a lot. They inverted colors a lot in this movie. A lot of
Yeah.
Hitchcockian stuff in this movie. And Scorsese owned up to it. Apparently, he said that he like just took a lot from Hitchcock.
Oh,
Even
for
the
sure.
Saul Bass, the guy who made that movie Phase 4 that we watched, he's like part of the production crew of this movie. He did the title sequencing, and obviously he
Oh
helped.
shit.
He
Okay.
did all the title sequencing for Hitchcock, and that's why Scorsese brought him in to do this.
Oh.
Interesting bit of trivia. Apparently, Spielberg was supposed to direct this, and he thought it was just too dark for him. And
Mm.
Scorsese was supposed to direct Schindler's List, and he was just like, I don't know if I can do this. So they swapped. They just swapped movies.
Really?
And Spielberg did Schindler's List, and Scorsese did this movie. But
Wow.
yeah, something I wanted to hear you touch on, and sadly I don't have too much time, boys. But something I wanted to hear you
Yeah.
touch on, Jake, is the symbolism in this movie. The stuff about the Southern stuff and the Confederacy. Like, what do you make of that? How does this come into this movie for you? Because there's a lot of that here.
Is that something so you're talking about like Confederate symbolism in it? Like
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of like, a lot of military imagery. There's like that parade, a lot
mhm,
of U.S. flags, a lot of conversation about the South, a lot of conversation about Southernness. De Niro has a North Carolina plate.
mhm.
He has like that like Confederate flag on it. There's a lot of Confederate flag shots in this movie. There's like random Confederate flags everywhere in this movie, funnily enough. So I just wanted to hear you. Like, do you have a take on that? Like, have you made anything of that, or do you think it's just
No,
kind of
it
like,
didn't really stand out to me. I know I noticed that stuff for sure during the parade. But yeah, I
yeah,
don't think I have much to say on it. Most of the symbolism in this movie, I guess I don't know if it was if it was really physical symbolism as much as it was just like thematic. I don't even know if it would be symbolism. I was thinking a lot about the themes and the sense of
mhm,
um yeah, just finding it very interesting the sort of this where the law and morality kind of rub, where it's like, hey, look, like maybe the lawyer, whether you think the lawyer should have broken the law or not by um withholding evidence, one thing we can be certain of is that the law, if the law would allow a guy like that, like Max Cady, to get a reduced sentence because the girl he graped uh, had lots and lots of consensual sex with other people,
mhm.
that's bullshit, and the law needs to change, right?
Right,
Like
100%.
fuck that. That's the
Yeah,
real. I think that's kind of the conclusion we need to come to with a movie. With this, it's like, hey, look, maybe the law needs to get more fucking moral, so people don't have to make so that taking a moral stand doesn't have to fly in the face of the law. But
yeah,
anyway, to circle back to your point, no, I didn't think too much about the Confederate flag stuff, so that's interesting.
yeah. I just wanted to bring it up with you because I didn't know if you had a take on it. I haven't read anything online about it, so I don't know what the general conversation is.
I got to look into
But I
that.
just wanted to, I just wanted to I wanted to have an exchange with you to see if it was like something that was beyond just, because I know it's like it paints the character for him. Like we know where he's coming from. What his point of view is. There's a lot of like, there's a lot of derogatory terms kind of thrown at him about, the fact that he's like this Southern guy. Obviously, he has a very thick accent. So, obviously obviously all of that adds to painting a picture of his character.
Mm.
But I also wanted to maybe it warrants a rewatch for me because I also wanted to just see if somehow this movie's trying to say something about any of that.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe it's just me overthinking this movie.
No, no, it's interesting. No, I don't think it doesn't sound accidental because you're right. I
Yeah.
mean, you got all that
There's so
stuff, and
much of it
then
that it can't be.
no, you're right. I don't know what the analogy would be there, but that's interesting. Well,
Like,
let's
I don't
look
know,
into
like,
that, and we can revisit that.
yeah, we might follow up with that because my thought was, like, I just was thinking, like, is Scorsese trying to do some kind of, like, Kubrick, like, hidden
Yeah,
messages about what the overall, like, narrative of his movie is trying to say? I have no idea.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
very
didn't pick up
fascinating
on
movie.
that if that was the case, but it was definitely present, like you guys said.
Yeah, no, it was there, but yeah. No, very fascinating movie. Sickening in some ways just because of how brilliant De Niro was. I'm surprised he never played a character like this again because he was just so great.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I don't have much else to add. But we might revisit this again in the future.
Yeah, we should follow up on that Kubrickian aspect because that would be a very Kubrickian. Because I know a lot of people say like The Shining is there's a lot of like Native American Holocaust
Hmm.
imagery in there, and there's like an analogy
Hmm.
there. But honestly, you could go down a million rabbit holes that are
Yeah.
infinitely deep with Kubrick. But
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like I would love to have Scorsese be like, "What is that about?" You know, but I feel like the answer for him would be like, "Yeah,
mm.
the character was some Southern guy, he was a South guy, what is that?" You know, so that's like my
Yeah.
fear. This is like no.
Exactly. What is the
Yeah.
what are your ratings, boys?
Um, Strong 7, light 8 for me. I had some issues with this movie. Again, I'm on a time crunch. So I apologize,
Mm,
listener.
yeah.
Um, but I had some issues with this movie. There's a lot of ADR in this movie. I know you noticed that.
Mm,
Like a great deal of ADR. And I also thought that this movie was a little bit too long. I don't know if you guys felt that way. I had issues with the pacing of this movie. After I finished the movie, I was like, what would I have taken out? I just kept thinking like I would have loved to have taken out like the whole stuff with his side lady. But then I was like, well, there's so much stuff in the movie that's about that, you know. I would have loved to have taken out. I would love to take out like 15 minutes of this movie.
mm-hmm. I could
Because I
I could
thought
see that.
it
Yeah.
was a little too long, but that's it. That's really it. But the strong 7, light 8. I'll probably give it an 8 anyway. But yeah.
What about you, Jack?
Yeah, I was gonna give it an 8. I thought it was a really strong movie. I really enjoyed watching it. I don't know, some of the things there's minor details that I don't know, maybe it was just from an enjoyment perspective I didn't love. Just like even there's the scene where we have, the lawyer, I forget his name, just, falling in the blood of that PI guy on the ground. I was just like,
Mm.
what is this? Like I was just like, oh, it's just I don't know. This guy's such a clown. Like I was like,
Yeah.
this guy is just a clown the entire movie. Like he never just takes the shit. Like it never seems like he takes it seriously. That was the
Yeah.
only thing that just
Yeah,
kind of
why the
drove me
fuck was
nuts a
he
little bit.
sleeping? That was my bit. That was one like moment for me where
He
I
was
was
like
like,
asleep.
"He's why are
Yeah.
you sleeping when there's a PI in your kitchen, like ready to shoot a guy? How could you fall
Mhm.
asleep? Like that was my
Yeah,
Yeah.
should you
again
get a second
minor.
gun in case the one guy with the one gun gets taken out?
Well, that's what I thought. I thought I had like a false memory of this movie. I thought, and I'm making this point quick, Edward. I thought he was gonna be there with the guy, and then but he's like sleeping
Yeah, he's
upstairs.
sleeping.
Get the fuck out of here! I was like, oh no, this is a scene where they're both there with guns. But anyway,
Mhm.
um, I give it a 9, so that rounds out to an
Convenient.
8.3 average for Film Tangents. Jack, what you got for us next week?
Dude, you took Jack's
Next
job. Jack's
week
supposed
I'm
to be the
gonna
guy
do
who has the
a.
average.
Oh, what were you saying?
I was making a joke. Go ahead.
Next week we're gonna do a Tarantino movie, Reservoir Dogs.
Woo! Let's go.
Let's
Hell
do it.
yeah!
Stuck in the middle with you. Ba-na-na, ba-na-na.
Yeah, this will
Next
be
week.
I think it'll be like our second Tarantino movie because we did Death Proof was the first one, right?
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah. Everybody stay
we do
tuned.
need more Tarantino on Film Tangents, so let's get it.
Yeah, especially for you, Jack, because I don't know how much of that stuff you've seen. At this point, I think Jake and I have seen everything.
Yeah.
Not much. So gonna be a first watch for me, so I'm looking forward to it
All right.
next time on Film Tangents.
All right.
Hey,
Thanks,
right.
everybody.